Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name's Joe Kuzma, and sitting to my side here in the virtual studio here, the SCU studios, chewing on a Fig Newton, is a
virtual fig cookie. I'm having my cookie celebratory cookie.
It's his victory fig, a one Mr. Brian E. Figgy Roach. That's gonna, man, that might stick now.
No,
I
refuse to be called
Brian
cookie.
E., the man who loves figs, not the host who doesn't like toast. Brian, I don't know about you, man. We're smiling a lot more now than we probably thought we were going to be around this time. Much to the point that we thought we were going to have to take the evening off, return back, tomorrow, Monday morning, and collect our thoughts as to not say mean and bad-spirited things. It almost looks like they may have turned a corner, they being the Pittsburgh Steelers, winning their first game in this month, or was that Baltimore game was the beginning of the month? But man, it's been about a month of bad football for the Steelers, but they come away with their first victory in after 3 losses, first victory in 4 games, 28-24 against the Indianapolis Colts after trailing 24-7 heading to the locker room for halftime. And I know you were tweeting it. This is one of the out-of-market games for me, so I got to use the Sunday ticket streaming, which is painfully god-awful slow, usually a play or two behind. So I'm sorry, Twitterverse and everybody that likes to comment online. My phone is like practically shut off to the world, so I don't get too spoiled by plays or seeing things ahead of time, because usually what happens is my cousin types me 4-letter F words, and it usually means something. Then all of a sudden it's like I'm witnessing it on the screen after he's already seen it, off the satellite or off the antenna or whatever, or hearing it on the radio. Everybody, or the beat writers, geez, the Steelers account's a little quick too. Who's good on that? I know you're not a hockey guy, but the Pittsburgh Penguins, very good with that, because I do a lot of streaming on the NHL TV, and they don't usually say goal or goal scored. They have a pretty good filter and limit. Steelers accounts, I know you're paying attention. Don't tell me that you don't. I know there's some things that are just too coincidental that line up that we all do the same way here. If you're paying attention, come on, hold off an extra 30 seconds for guys like me, please, and everybody else out there. But there was a big delay. Brian, I was keeping my sanity in the first half by helping my kid. Santa brought a lot of Lego sets, and in between I was doing a little bit of Lego set things and just kind of peeking at the TV to see if anything was going to change. 3 and out, this, that, and the other thing. And it was looking even worse than it was on Monday night. And we had talked about all the different things that they could change or fix, and it didn't look like they were doing any of those things. It was just more dink-dunk, very predictable. A lot of things that we'll bring up here, but let me get your opening statements and beginning thoughts. As I mentioned, I wore Ben Roethlisberger today because I knew it was going to be the old 2004 quarterback class, Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers battle, and once again, ye old Mr. Rivers turned into a pumpkin at midnight, and I couldn't be even more thankful for it.
I did not wear a jersey. I wore my Carhartt hat, which I had on earlier, but I switched to this thing.
Hey, speaking of, not to shill product,
this hat.
But I finally
I wore that hat.
I finally got to wear that. I haven't had as much inclement weather as you've had in my location. Great hat, by the way.
I love this hat. I wear this hat all the time.
Nice and warm.
This is the entirety of my Steelers gear today, because I feel like being decked out. Yeah, I see, nice cup.
Yeah,
I don't drink that nasty hot crap that you're drinking.
Oh no, I got water. I got water. No alcohol,
okay, well,
no beverage here, just water.
I do. Drink
YouTube will
water.
throw us off of here.
Yeah, but I just decided I needed to switch it up. The last 3 weeks, really the last 4 weeks have been so atrocious. I felt like, you know what? I need to switch things up because they need to switch things up. And I wasn't feeling really good about it in the first half. But, hey, I feel much better now. It's really the best I've felt in a long time.
Well, the entire month of December, as noted, and we've mentioned before, Steelers had previously scored at least, what was it? They had a low of 24 against the Cowboys. Every other game at least 26, 27 points prior. You get to December 2nd on a weekday 3:40 kickoff against the Baltimore Ravens on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Let me talk about that. Just because I'm going to have to throw some shade, there's probably some people up from the Lake Erie region, specifically that mistake on the lake they call Cleveland. And they've been unbearable for the last few weeks. I'd said the NFL probably had a vested interest in seeing that this Week 17 game meant something, and Cleveland, being a bit on the rebound of a team. But I had made a lot of comments about them, too, saying, hey, look, you guys can make as much fun about the Steelers, Browns fans that is, making fun of the Steelers and needling the Steelers fans, including my uncle on Christmas Day, who I have promptly hung up on. Merry Christmas. I called him back. But anyways, he was getting under my skin. The first thing he wants to talk about is how bad the Steelers are doing instead of talking about his team or college football or anything else of that nature. And I just got to say, hey, Cleveland, you had to play basically the same schedule, and you don't have the same kind of record. And now they were talking about, oh, maybe they can move this game back like they did for Baltimore. And I said, that would be great. Why don't they move your game to Wednesday at 3:40, and then you could still play. They'll just move the Steelers-Browns game back to Monday night, since all the games are played on Sunday for the final week for that competitive balance. Well, there may not be a competitive balance there. We'll have to talk about that, whether or not you sit players and things of that nature. I think that comes into play. But now you go from an opportunity of the Dolphins almost lose to the Raiders. The Browns were almost sneaking in potentially with an opportunity to maybe even win the AFC North, clinch a playoff spot had the Dolphins lost. And now it's like everything's in turmoil. The Steelers have jumped back up. And as we're recording this, of course, we know Buffalo's still got to play. So Buffalo will probably go back. Buffalo with a victory goes back to the 2 spot with a head-to-head in the same record. But for right now, the Steelers, as we're speaking, as a lot of these 4-something games have kicked off, they're in 3 just because of the 11 wins versus the 12-win thing, but whatever. But anyways, I just had to throw out there, man, the New York Jets, the New York Football Jets. Oh, man, everybody, all I heard about was the team with no name and the Bengals, and really the Steelers should have swept this AFC North division to begin with for the season.
I'm not throwing any shade at the Browns for losing to the Jets. I'll take joy in the Browns losing to the Jets, but I won't throw shade because we stunk so bad last week. And I'm sorry. They can get all hyped up all they want. This just proves any week, any given Sunday or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, since this is the only year, I guess, where every day there's been a game at some point during the year, every weekday.
Yeah, there has, because Friday, Christmas Day, there was yeah. So yeah, you're right. You're correct. Wednesday is
so any given day, one team could come up and whomp your butt, especially if you're not playing at full strength or if you're not playing well. And I'm just glad that next week's game means nothing. That's all I care about at this point.
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, it's still going to be annoying, but it all depends on who's playing. I understand the Browns were without some wide receivers and a few players, but look at the Jets.
All of them, right? They were out
Jets,
without all of them.
Pretty much all of them. Yeah, all the top guys, Landry and all that. But anyways, I'm not here to talk about the Browns specifically. It was just a compare and contrast with how the Steelers have had to deal with COVID issues and schedule changes and things of that nature. And finally heard Jim Nantz and Tony Romo talk about it on this game, on this broadcast, which was quite refreshing. When people. I
knew that would bring joy to your heart.
Well, I'll tell you why it brings joy to my heart, because
legitimacy. That's why
it does. It does. I like at any point where our opinions. A lot of people tend to call us homers, biased, say we're blowing hot air. We don't know what we're talking about. And there's quite a few people that come on here and say and humble us, as we know. We talked about in the back room. Somebody was like, "Hey, I was looking forward to hearing this all week," and we're glad that this brings some joy to you. Particularly, I know a lot of people out there. 2020 has not been the best year, and the way the Steelers have been playing, man, I'll tell you. Along with everybody's got things in their personal lives, you and me, Brian, and it's just like it couldn't handle the Steelers, as Zachadonia said. Yeah, he gets another shout out for something clever. He says, "My heart is pounding through my eyes."
Yes,
and he's absolutely right.
I gave him a like on that. Yeah,
yeah, you got to. You give him. Here's a shilling. Here's a shilling. I watched like 3 different versions of Christmas Carol. I still didn't get to Jim Carrey yet, so we got 4. We got George C. Scott, the Mickey Christmas Carol, and then the Muppet Christmas Carol. So
none of those count.
They don't count.
The only one that matters is the one with Bill Murray.
Oh, Scrooge. Well, yeah,
Scrooge.
I watched Scrooge as well. I did. Yeah, I told you it was on when you posted that you were watching. Anyways, give you a shilling, young man, for your tweet. So, anyways, let's dive into this game. The Steelers didn't run the football. Did it seem to matter? I think the biggest thing is they didn't turn the ball over, but goodness gracious.
They try a little bit, a couple times.
Was this ugly or what? It was 2 for 8 yards or so, or 4 carries, 8 yards, or I don't even remember what the heck they did in the first half. Hold on, there's a first half summary.
Yes,
here
you go. James Conner, 2 for 3. Deontay Johnson had 1 for 2. Benny Snell football, 4 for -1.
Yeah, 4 yards.
A total of 7 for 4 yards.
Just these things were completely aggravating. Let's go through the plays first. I think it's easier to just go through there, dissect, try and see what I remember in my brain. I did laugh. Speaking of like just the legitimacy or repeating some of the things that we talked about, there are times in the game where you see something and you're like, man, that was holding. That's a penalty. And there was one on T.J. Watt where did I see where I thought I saw? Am I just being like so black
Holding
and gold blinded here? And that was a chin lock, man. And I understand it's a massive arm from whichever tackle that was, because when we first cut this before Christmas, ahead of everything, and I had plenty of things. Hold on. I had plenty of things to complain about with you people being the Steelers offense. With my Festivus poll. That hold, I was like, did I see what I thought I saw? And then they were showing the replay, and I'm like, how is that not holding? And then Tony Romo finally jumps on and finally says something. But, half the time he's wrong, too, so you can't. The Steelers start this game. They get the ball. They throw. It's not just a 3 and out, Brian. It's 3 consecutive incomplete pass plays for a 3 and out.
Bad, dude. Ugly throws, ugly, bad, just bad.
Man, oh man. Jordan Berry punts 61 yards. Mark that down. You're going to hear that probably again.
He's going to get tested.
Colts, 9 plays, 70 yards. Looked like the Steelers' defense couldn't stop the run anymore. I understand Vince Williams just came off the COVID list. Maybe not sharp football. I'm going to be curious. We don't have them yet. How many snaps did you see number 40? T. Scales out on? He was out there quite a bit. He was a guy that's just been called up to the practice squad. Don't worry, folks. I think Derwin Gray, who was released, and we had a little bit of praise for, he had a quarter of the game snaps last Monday. That's not even like 15 or 20 in the game, and maybe 3 or 4 the rest of the season. Hardly anything as far as a starter, or for example. But you're not going to cut Hassenauer, who's also a backup center. So somebody had to move in order to fill some bodies in, because Marcus Allen was ruled out of this game. Not many other injuries other than Chris Boswell. And seeing as Matthew Wright had already played in a game, I wasn't like shaking in my boots over it, but I just know that Tomlin wasn't allowing him to take very long field goal chances or tries in the previous game. And I also knew, playing at home, when you're talking about that open end, and I saw that area that they were headed towards, and this will come into play as we discuss closer to halftime here as to why maybe the clock management and Tomlin deciding to do what he did. But they give up 70 yards on 9 plays here. It was almost like there was a platoon of guys we had talked about before with Nyheim Hines, Jonathan Taylor. I'm already going to see this probably on all these Facebook groups and Twitter and everything. Oh, they didn't get Dobbins. Dobbins scored like in his 5th straight game today, I think, and Taylor doing what he did earlier in the touchdown. I could just already hear all the screams in my ears about the run game or lack thereof with the Steelers. So naturally, the first thing they're going to do when they get the ball back down 7-0 and starting from their 26-yard line is a run right tackle into nothingness for 1 yard loss by Benny Snell. Thank you for running the ball. Don't have to do that again for 3 more plays. It's still driving me nuts. I don't know if it drove you as much nuts as me, but the thing is, I felt with Benny Snell, and I don't recall if I said this privately, publicly here, or whatever, I really feel like he's a rhythm guy that you got to feed the ball to in order to start generating some stuff. Not only that, but with the offensive line as well.
I tend to disagree with you a lot about the running game and why it doesn't work, but I won't disagree with your philosophy. You're absolutely right. Almost all running backs are rhythmic. They require getting the ball. They require getting into the game. It's very rare that a running back can just come in, take the ball once, and he's juiced. He's going to go for 35, 40 yards and always breaking tackles. No, they need to get into the game. The problem is the Steelers are still not equipped to do that correctly. The offensive line was atrocious again in the first half. They were awful, god-awful in the first half. But the backs, look, I get people's complaints. You and I wanted Dobbins. I'm not upset that we didn't get him at this point because I love Chase Claypool. I'm excited that we got Chase Claypool. I didn't think Chase Claypool would be around when we were picking, so I'm glad that somebody took Dobbins and we took Claypool. I do wish it hadn't been the Ravens. But, yes, double thumbs up to that.
Going way up in the air on that one.
Yeah.
I'd give you a toe, too, if I went and kicked my desk.
I will say this. They need a different running back. I don't think that any of the backs that they have are franchise-type backs. And I don't think that they have enough right now to even run platoon well because
that's what I
don't trust their visions. I don't trust – especially – look, Benny Snell, when he's in rhythm, when he's running, and when the line is actually opening holes – all of those things can contribute to him doing well, but his vision is questionable. It has been questionable for the past 2 years. And I know that Ryan Lippert will yell at me because he's a Kentucky boy, but I don't care. I see what I see. I think he has questionable vision. I think he can be a serviceable backup. I don't think he can be a starter or a heavily counted on platoon member.
Yeah, I was wondering about the committee thing. We've seen so many teams make it to the Super Bowl with committees over the last several years. Atlanta, and part of that is Kyle Shanahan's offense, which is still working in San Francisco. I talk about a team that won a game that you aren't counting on with a lot of missing pieces as well. So that was Atlanta that had made it there. He took that to San Francisco. You see it with Baltimore as well. And Baltimore hasn't done anything with it, but you see how many yards they put up. They also have the running. They just have a whole different breed of offense there based on that Greg Roman run style that he coincidentally came from San Francisco as well. Who am I thinking of? New England, of course. Missing someone here. Who's just one of the other recent teams? Kansas City. Kansas City had a number of guys, too, that are in their backfield, including, you may have forgotten this by now, but Le'Veon Bell's there. So
easy to forget.
The reason I'm bringing all this up, and it's not that I've interrupted this Steelers second drive here, but there's a very specific set of plays here that come on second and third. James Conner, left tackle, 2 yards, and then they bring in Gerald Hawkins, they bring in Derek Watt, and they bring it to Benny Snell, loses 2 yards after Alejandro Villanueva gets his lunch completely stolen from his backpack, he just conceded the entire edge to Justin Houston, who pretended like he wasn't there, and he stops that run there. The hole behind Kevin Dotson, behind Derek Watt, I think the space is there to at least pick up a yard right in the middle of the field, and they completely fail to do that, and you're just like, oh geez, here we go again. So just speaking on that and bringing up Ryan's name, who deserves a shout out here, since me and him sat through that horrible Monday game in Cincinnati together, we discussed a few things that we saw in offenses. We were talking about, are these guys overthinking it? Are they doing too much here? After I saw this first half of football, Brian, I'm like, there's nothing they could change. They're not willing to change. They're not willing to invest in running the ball whatsoever. As soon as it doesn't work, let's abandon it. What has ever happened? A lot of people talk about play action, maybe putting Ben under center, and we saw him doing all these crazy steps and things that caused him to they turned the ball over. They were trying to do, end rounds and doing all this goofy stuff. And I said, isn't it as simple as I don't see Ben, I don't see the running backs. I saw a few things in that Cincinnati game, and maybe just prior that I'm like, it looks like the running backs can get the ball. It's like nobody's respecting that. They're just throwing them in the backfield for pass protection because the offensive line, like Alejandro Villanueva the last 2 games, getting eaten alive. Chooks completely missing a block with the DB. Totally no hat on any hat there. And there was also some circumstances here I'll talk about later where they don't utilize the tight ends as well as they probably could have, or even the wrong personnel maybe for a wide receiver if you're going to run off tackle to the right side. So I was just like, where's Ben's pump fake? Why can't we just a little wheel route, a little chip, a little rub and come out into the flat or just something that now you have to have a guy respect that. It takes another guy out of the secondary or forces another player that isn't able to rush the passer. And those are some of the things that I thought that's something that's very simple. And I know Benny Snell's not known as a pass catching back, but he's capable. He's caught some, and definitely Connor has surprised us over the last few years when he's in the game and capable as well. And there's actually a play here where Ben forces it to Ebron. It was a completion, but if you saw it, they ran the same route. Practically, they had Ebron come out, and Connor leaked out of the backfield, and there was nobody within 20 yards on the TV screen. Who knows how big of a gainer that could have been, but they fail here. To convert on 3rd and 1. They lose 2 yards on top of it. Jordan Berry punts. You're like, oh, geez, here we go. They're down 7-0. Is it going to be 14-0? And we see something that's probably going to be brought up to us with Jacoby Brissett running on 3rd and 1. As the Colts, they're picking up chunks. They're doing stuff the Steelers' offense isn't doing on 1st downs and 2nd downs, and that's putting themselves into a 2nd and manageable, 3rd and manageable. Even if you're in a 2nd and shorter, that sets you up for maybe to take a deep shot. And there were no deep shots either that we've been seeing from the Steelers offense. Can Ben still throw the ball down there? You're really starting to think maybe not. That's probably why they're not doing this. And then that's all the defense does is just sit there, 8 in the box. And, hey, this little dink-dunk crap ain't going to work because we got everybody covered. You're going to throw it in 2 seconds. The defenders don't even have to move. Just put them in a spot, and they're standing where you're going to throw the ball. That's just how bad this has been getting. So the defense they give up a 1st down here, but they also they get the job done as well. And I'm trying to see where in this spot. Okay, the Steelers get the ball back. This is right at the end of the 1st quarter. Roethlisberger. So you get a 2-yard little shot to Deontay Johnson. You're like, oh, yay. He grabbed the ball and then just walked it. I thought he only got one. Groucho Marx over here. You just need the little stash with the eyebrows, Brian. Brian likes to tell me I'm long-winded when he starts playing around with the filters on the conferencing software. Anyways, Roethlisberger sacked. They lose 9 yards. That's the play I was talking about. Okorafor doesn't. He doesn't get anybody. Doesn't get anybody on that side, and I believe. Maybe Vance McDonald was over on that side, but he got one guy, and the other guy came free, which was Willis. 3rd and 17. They throw a pass to Ebron, 11 yards. One of these plays was completely crazy for me too, and it might be later on here as we get into the 2nd quarter, where they throw a pass, and I swear on 3rd down, it was like the pass was thrown to the original line of scrimmage. It wasn't even anywhere downfield where they could have even attempted to get a 1st down, and I believe that was
the one to Deontay.
Yes, it was.
Crossing route to Deontay.
The drag route.
Losing 2 yards.
that drove me crazy, and I'll have to look. Yeah, that was the comment I made when we were talking during the game. But Colts get the ball back. I'll let you say it. What's his name? I can't spell. It begins with a G. I think his initials are GAM. It's not your usual one, CAM, with the GAM. He's later.
It's a guy who has initials as a name, who is also a GAM. TJ Watt, in a grown-ass man moment, strips the ball. Or knocks the ball
Jordan.
Out, right?
Trent Jordan. Yeah.
Trent Jordan Watt.
is a grown-ass
man.
Yes. Injected into my veins. The feeling I got now, I hope I have this in February. That's all I'm saying. Let's see if we keep it.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That shook everything. Earthquake? There's an earthquake there in Ohio? What the hell's going on there?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There almost would have been. I might have went out and started burning down buildings and stuff on my en route to Heinz Field if they had lost this game any worse. But, the strip sack. Strip sack. Mike Hilton gets on the ball.
Mike Hilton picks it up, yep.
How about that for a choice today? It had already made some past defenses up until this point, too. And for the game day picks that I put out on the social media, I'm like, you know what? We've been talking a lot about Mike Hilton. I haven't used Mike Hilton all year. I got to put Mike Hilton on here. I got to feature and highlight him. And, man, what a choice he was to pick for today. Yep. So the Steelers have got first and down in three.
From the three.
From the three, yes. First and goal from the three. Benny Snell, 1 yard. Ben Roethlisberger.
I got to ask, before you go through it, I got to ask you. First and goal from the three. Based on what we had seen up to that point, and based on the last few games, rate your confidence level that we were not going to walk out of there 7-3 at that point.
What's my scale? Is it like a 1 to 10, or is it like a not satisfactory?
Come on, be honest.
You know something?
It was below 0.
I can't go below 0, but my confidence level in the offense, based off of the first quarter of play and what else we had seen from the three, I said I might disown this team if they don't punch this in.
I almost tweeted it. I almost said it's first and goal from the three. The Steelers will end up winning, being behind 7-3 after this, and I couldn't because it felt way too mean to say that. I already had gotten snarky earlier by saying the defense stops the Colts, and in 3 plays they'll have the ball back.
Well, I have my Festivus poll out still because for me, Festivus is like 8 crazy nights or whatever, just like Hanukkah.
Just based on Twitter, the nation's confidence level that they were going to score a touchdown on that drive was very low.
Well, the confidence level of a whole lot of people just made me nauseated before the game. It's like, I don't even think I want to watch them get their butts kicked. And it's like, then don't.
Yeah, don't.
Just turn in your jersey, turn in your hat, have a nice day. Go watch something else. Maybe there's golf on or something. Nothing against golfers. I've golfed in the past, but golf isn't football. Anyways. Benny Snell, 1 yard. Okay, you got to try it. Deontay Johnson pass incomplete. Offside play moves him a little closer, but it's not like an automatic first down type situation because it's already goal to go. So it's 3rd and 1, and Connor punches it in, and finally I feel good about myself. But I don't feel that great about myself just because I know we got those points off the turnover and the incredibly short field that was gifted. I was concerned going forward.
The tweets about if the Steelers can have every drive start at the 3, we might actually win this game.
and we're going to find out maybe that's not so true either.
Yes,
but Indianapolis, 12-play, 85-yard touchdown scoring drive. It was there was Jonathan Taylor, but this just goes to show you on play selection here. Phillip Rivers, 17-yard pass to Jack Doyle, 25-yard pass to T.Y. Hilton, took a deep shot for Michael Pittman that was covered excellently by Michael. Hey, what's his full name? He doesn't have initials, does he? Mike Hilton. Let me see. Mike Hilton. Come on, baby.
Maybe.
Oh, they don't say. They don't say. I was hoping he had like a middle name put on in his Wikipedia. Failed me. This is not. We do not know that he has a middle name. So, anyways, he needs a good nickname. He also needs to be back here next year. I will put my stamp on that. We discussed it here. Here's a good segue, real quick. I don't know if I talked about this with the professor. I know we've been part of the discussions. I'll throw Eric Herman in there too, even though he's stealing my idea and then putting it out on Twitter. I'm saying, yeah. I would like to have Cam Sutton and Mike Hilton back. That may sacrifice Joe Hayden. It also depends on what type of salary cap is available next season. But Mike Hilton may become the defensive priority for the Steelers. He just affects so much what they can do. And we've even seen him go deep at playing deep center field and should have came away with an interception there as well later in the game, where we also see Joe Hayden here when we go through this after this touchdown scoring drive by Indianapolis, the Steelers offense once again goes 3 and out with an awesome display of incomplete pass to Eric Ebron, Benny Snell, right guard for 1 yard, and then Ben Roethlisberger, short pass for Deontay Johnson. That was the drag route on 3rd and 9. So he comes across the front of the formation of the offensive lineman. Okay, we're going to just throw it right here and let Deontay pick up the other 9 yards, and he doesn't pick up.
No shot.
Doesn't even pick up 0. He doesn't pick up 1. He -1, and that was just bad. Jordan Berry gets to work on his kicking game skills again with a 50-yard punt, which is returned for 22 yards. I was starting to feel a little bit, too, that with all the injuries and other things that had gone on and cycling of players, that the special teams was going to be affected here and that Indianapolis was going to break one in this game. I had a very much nervous twitch about that, too, Brian. But here we see 2 plays, 43 yards. This was the deep ball where we've seen Hayden beat on this before in past games. I can't tell you specifically which one, but at least a couple of times over the last 2 seasons, 2-3 times, where he goes and replaces off of a safety blitz, and the opposing team, they pick up on it. Zach Pascal, 42-yard touchdown. Now it's 21-7, and you're just like, well, what I think you were saying on there, the offense, what are they going to do with the ball now? They're just going to do more of the same, maybe. But you get a little bit of glimmer of hope. They get a first down on this drive.
Yes.
And then they get another first down. But it's Ben Roethlisberger pass, short right, Deontay Johnson, short left, Juju, short middle, Juju, short middle, James Conner. 10 yards. Now we're getting somewhere. Now I'm feeling the pot's starting to bubble a little, maybe. Incomplete to Juju Smith-Schuster. Incomplete to Juju Smith-Schuster. It's 3rd and 10. Incomplete, deep right to Deontay Johnson. Where's my poll? Can they run the football, or do they just not want to do it? It's like when there's something on my kid's plate and she's full or not hungry. It's really, she doesn't want to eat what's on the plate.
I'm just going to tell you, they can't run the football.
They will not do it.
They can't. They can't run the football.
I understand it was Cincinnati. I understand it was Cincinnati. They showed that they could, but it depends on the defense. We talked about DeForest Buckner and some of those other guys, Darius Leonard, etc. So there is some respect there for the Colts defense, and we'll see.
The way they can run the football is to, well, we'll get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, don't do it just quite yet. Jordan Berry, 44-yard punt. Man, he's racking up the net yards here. Should be in the Pro Bowl. There's something you haven't heard anybody complain about Jordan Berry lately. It was cut him, and then all of a sudden he came back and it's been quiet. He's been almost like the bright spot. Oh, ugh. Okay. Anyway,
there's a reason. There's been enough other stuff to complain about.
Hey,
he's been fine. He's been fine. He's been better than fine, actually.
You know who I thought had a good game too? Terrell Edmonds. Terrell Edmonds had a nice pass breakup, almost the interception,
almost the pick.
Almost the pick.
He almost had a PI too. So
he was looking, playing the ball.
Close.
He was close. Look. If they're going to call
that shoulder went like this.
Yeah, but you got
it could have been called.
No, I think that would have been complete crap because the defender is in between the ball and the wide receiver there, and you just it's not the opposite side.
By the terms of the rules, it could have been called.
I'm gonna think that some people are gonna say the Steelers got bailed out, but I think all of the pass interference calls were absolutely valid in this game on both sides.
The one on Deontay where he touched his foot, that one
trampled him. Yeah, I know that. You know why?
That was a gift.
You know why you think that? Because they don't ever freaking call it. And you know what's gonna be our penance coming forward when you get to play at Cleveland next weekend. It's either Tony Corrente or Clete Blakeman's coming to town to give us our nice gifts of 10 to 12 penalties. So just wait. When you think it isn't bad or it can't get any worse, 2020, this game won't be in 2020.
Maybe they'll actually call holding against whoever's playing against TJ Watt.
That's wishful thinking.
Yeah, I know.
You could even have
They were doing it to Alex Highsmith in this game, too. I mean, you talk about holding being a myth. Man, it didn't matter which side of the ball was. Both those tackles were head choking the guys. It was ridiculous. The refs suck, but I'm still not going to say I said it. I ruined my streak. I said it. It's not the refs' fault. The refs, they're terrible, but I can't even yell at them anymore.
I don't know if they affected the outcome of this game.
They didn't. They had no. Well, I guess if you're a Colts fan, you might think they did, but
Not really. The Colts, they kind of had their foot on our neck, and they should have put it down. But in the second half, their play calling completely changed, and they got away from running the ball for some odd reason when they had a massive lead and could have chewed some clock, and it was working. I don't understand what they did there, and that's the type of thing that would drive you crazy if you put the shoe on the other foot. So I'll say that much for them. I'll say this much of their last possession, of which there was 1:48 left on the clock. Here, you end up with a 2nd and 15, and then a 2nd and 20 with the Colts with 1:10 left. Nyheim Hines for a little 2-yard run up the middle there, and no timeout from Mike Tomlin, who had 3 in his back pocket. This clock goes down to 26 seconds before they snap it on a 3rd and 18. Is this along the lines of your thinking, 1:10 with all of these other drives thus far for the Steelers? Let me see. How much time possession? 27 seconds. They had 4:15, 1:58, 50 seconds, 1:45, 2:14. And then, of course, at the end of the half, this one will be only 14 seconds because the time chewed off. The Colts had 3 timeouts still at this point. If you're Mike Tomlin, are you thinking – a lot of people are like, terrible clock management by Mike Tomlin. I understand the Colts are getting the ball back. But are you also thinking to yourself – I just want to get in the halftime and not give up any more points to this team. Because if I bring my offense back out here and we, go 3 and out, and they burn their timeouts, and they have good field position off the punt, because this ball, where do they end up getting it at? They get it at the 40, at their own 43. So, that's decent field position because they had them backed up pretty well here to their 15. But that's what I was thinking is they have 3 timeouts. They could still get the ball back with like 30-some seconds or whatever, and who knows, a turnover or other.
Yeah, let me put that into your head. What has been the one thing they didn't do in the first half that could have gotten them into worse trouble? Bad as the offense was.
Turnovers.
What is the one thing they didn't do? Turnovers.
They didn't turn the ball over.
And what has been done at the ends of halves more frequently this season? Turn the ball over. He didn't want to see. Look, and I don't blame him. I didn't want to see the offense come back on that field in the first half. Not under a pressure situation where you're trying to force things and get some points. No. Get to the half, get out of there, and regroup.
And not only that, put your defense back out there, too, who you're going to need to start the half as the second half. And start the second half, they do. 10 plays, 65 yards, field goal here by Rodrigo Blankenship, who I think made the Pro Bowl, right? I think he did. I don't know. He's a tremendous young kicker. You've never seen him? He has like the rec specs that the kids used to wear in the 80s, those big, bold, black, thick-rimmed. Come on, dude.
Do you honestly believe that I pay attention to other teams' kickers?
You have to pay attention. This guy looks like I hate to tell the professor this, but he very much looks like Rodrigo Blankenship here. Hold on a second. I gotta send that to you. You can take a look at that. That's what the guy. That's the guy right there, Rodrigo Blankenship. There's memes that were going around that said they show a guy like DK Metcalf who looks like a Greek god, and then there's Rodrigo Blankenship, and they're like, these 2 guys played the same exact sport. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, the next time the professor's in Pittsburgh, he's going to sit on you, or next time you see him, after seeing this, he's going to sit on you.
He will. This guy's 6'1", 184, though. So the professor, being a former offensive lineman,
maybe I'll take it as a compliment. Although from the look on that image that you just sent me, I don't think so.
He looks like a dork. He's a great kicker, though. He's a great kicker. But I'm not feeling any better. I mean, it's good that they held them here. You got to have any chance of doing anything in this game. Phillip Rivers gets sacked by Stephon Tuitt, who I believe goes up to 10 on the season, and now he's in
a career high.
Not only career high, it's another Steeler with double digits. Yep. T.J. Watt finishing 15? This game 15, which was more. He has 15.
Did he not get another?
Or is it more? Is it more? Well, at 15, he had more than the Titans have had all year.
Yeah.
So I've seen that reported too.
And it was again a career high for him too.
Yes, and he's also the first Steelers defensive player with 15 or more sacks in multiple seasons.
Yeah.
That
14
is
or more.
Was it 14 or more?
14 or more.
14 or more.
15 is his season, is his career.
Oh, yeah. You're correct. I know.
He
I
had
was looking.
2. They had 5 total. He had 2 of them. I don't remember what he was at before coming into the game.
Yeah, Mark Madden's still on his spiel about if they broke out the T-shirts for winning the division, too. And he was saying that even before the game, thinking he's so clever there. So it's just,
Look, I will be the one. I don't agree. I never agree with Mark Madden. But if we won the division simply because the Jets beat the Browns, I'm not celebrating that. No, I'm not going to break out. Yes, we still win, but I don't want to break out the T-shirts and the hats for that because it feels hollow. What they did, well, you know what? I'm going to save this until we're done talking about the second half. But let's just say the way it played out, I'm proud that they get to break those T-shirts out.
Absolutely. I'm trying to find. Let me see. I can't find it. There is a statistic now. We'll have to find it at some point. With Stephon Tuitt. Well, the Stephon Tuitt sack did do this too for Michael Birch, Steelers PR Mike on Twitter. They've recorded 50-plus sacks in each of the last 4 seasons. They're the first team in the NFL to record 50-plus sacks in 4 consecutive seasons since the 85-88 New York Giants with LT. So there was something about him with being one of the defensive linemen with double-digit sacks too. I think he's maybe the 4th guy ever or something of that nature. We'll have to track that one down. Maybe somebody will leave it in the comments somewhere, and then we aren't so clueless. I don't want to spend too much more time looking for that, but Stephon Tuitt, you're a grown-ass man as well. Let's see here. So let me see, we had the field goal. Well, that's what pretty much forced it on the 3rd and 3. So that put them, they were knocking on the door. They're on the 7-yard line there, Brian. They could have made this even worse, even more pain at maybe 28-7. And you're starting to think to yourself, well, are the Steelers going to respond at all on offense? How can they possibly respond? They try 1st and 10. You got 8 yards. Chase Claypool finally gets involved in this game. It's like, where's this guy been? This is the next Randy Moss, and he's been a ghost for the month of December. Maybe the ghost of Christmas or football Steelers 2020 season past, as we may say. Benny Snell. Now they're going to go back to the run, and they get a first down. Doggone it. 2 yards that he needs there. Now you get 11 yards. Now it's starting to look like something else. Like the Colts are picking up these chunks. Now the Steelers are getting some chunks. Ebron for 11 yards. Claypool again for 11 yards. He gets Claypool 34 yards. Little zinger there. Ebron again, 10 yards. And it's like, man, they can't cover just these 2 guys anymore. He did try to find James Washington there on the goal line. There was the pass interference. I thought that was a fine call. And then there's the play that I was referencing a little earlier as well. Benny Snell, right guard, for a 1-yard loss. TJ Carey and DeForest Buckner. You're going to run at one of the better defensive linemen in the NFL. Definitely one of the top guys in the AFC, right? And Tony Romo also mentioned it. He was a snub for the Pro Bowl, which rightfully so, I believe. I will agree with you, Mr. Romo. Who was on did you see the way this was set up on the field? It was Chukwuekorfor. There was no tight end. There was no Vance McDonald next to Chukwuekorfor. No, there was a small little gap with James Washington. What's James Washington, like 5'11", 210, if that? James Washington then comes in a little tighter, telegraphing to me, watching on TV, this is where they're going with the ball. And everybody gets bowled over, and Benny Snell can't do anything. And all of a sudden, everybody's going to be like, this is Benny Snell's fault. This is just terrible execution. I don't care how obvious you need to make it in some of these situations. When you're sitting there on the 1-yard line, bring in Derek Watt, bring in Gerald Hawkins, load everybody, Vance McDonald, load them up on one side, and get behind the horses and just punch it in for that yard. Impose your will. What has happened to imposing their will? You're going to say, well, they can't impose their will. There's only so many bodies on bodies where you could do this. But James Washington is not the guy you put over there when you do this. At least put Claypool or Juju over there.
I agree with all that.
A complete failure to do that. And then, of course, they don't try it again because it didn't work, and it didn't work because you set them up for failure.
It didn't work because they're just not very good at running the ball. They're terrible at running the ball, and it's part of because at least at that point in the game, the Colts have no fear of you running the ball.
No, they
don't,
shouldn't.
and there's no reason for them to. And they also have no fear of you doing anything at this point except what you've been showing them all along. So, of course, especially now you're down at the 1 yard line, and what are you going to do? You now take the long pass out of the equation. You're no longer worried about it. So, at all, not that they were overly worried about it to begin with. But, by the way, I was fine with them going for it. Everybody else is like, oh, no, I got to kick field goal. But you had people on both sides of it. You can't kick the field goal there. You need to cap that drive, and then if you don't get it, hope your defense does the right thing, holds. Maybe you get a safety, even, because they have been able to get to Phillip Rivers. I mean, they did sack him 5 times. They were able to get to him. Maybe you get a tackle for loss in the end zone. Maybe you get that safety, and then all of a sudden you get the ball back and you got some points, and it's a 2-score game. I had no problem with that call. I would have gone for it 10 times out of 10.
Oh, I'm totally with you on that. You kicking the field goal there is just conceding. It does nothing for moral victories for your team, and if you miss, even if you don't get it on 4th down, is that any worse than just tucking tail and kicking in the field goal? And then you have to stop the Colts and hope you hold them from scoring again, which you were barely able to do in anything previous to this best offensive drive that you had to this point. The play selection, 1 to Ebron. 1 to Claypool that should have been caught, I believe. It was put up here on the, what side is it? Up here on the patch and bounced off his shoulder. Yeah, I think so as well. Those type of plays are still driving me crazy, and I'm trying to figure out, like, where's Juju in all of this play selection here? Probably the most sure-handed guy that you got. The second most sure-handed guy I thought that they were going to go to, or thought maybe he was going to go there previously. Maybe it was the Ebron or the Claypool play. We've seen James Washington. Let's always put him in the back corner and let him go up and get the combat catch. And then they go for it. Everybody else saw this. TJ Carey's played against them. He used to play slot for the Browns. So he's seen this before as well, and makes a good play. And you're just like, well, this is kind of the way things are going for the Steelers. So it's 24-7, and I'm just going to have to live with this. And come on, D, maybe you could do something here. So Jonathan Taylor runs for a 1-yard loss. Phillip Rivers goes deep for T.Y. Hilton, covered by Mike Hilton. Tony Romo had a lot of fun with the Hilton names on this one.
Yes, he did.
And these were some battles, particularly Hilton and this was Steven Nelson on this one. Sorry, was not the Hilton combination on this one, but Steven Nelson and T.Y. Hilton were battling, and you're surprised that maybe there aren't more flags that were thrown in their direction on either side, because I thought there was also an offensive pass interference that maybe should have been called later on. Although Steven Nelson looked like he was playing in the NBA, the way he scooted down on his butt and took a charge as well. So that was on, I think, that final drive. But anyways, Phillip Rivers, all he can do is get to Zach Pascal for 6 yards. They have to punt. And very first play, Ed Bouchette says this ball travels 50 yards in the air. Ben Roethlisberger's arm didn't look too bad to Deontay Johnson. This was the play they missed on connecting on earlier in the game, where Deontay was on the inside instead of the outside of the numbers there. This time he goes down that outside. They go for it again, 39 yards, touchdown. All of a sudden you're like, okay, a broken clock is right twice a day. So they've scored with defensive help. They got one big play. But you know what? Doggone it. They're only down 10 now. It's 2 scores instead of 3-score games. You still got about 3-something left here in third quarter. There's still a lot of football. Anything can happen. I'm feeling a little bit better, but I'm still sitting here. I'm not quite waving my terrible towel or getting too, oh, who am I kidding? I still was happy about it. But you're feeling a little bit better compared to everything else that's been going on. And then the Colts get the ball. And Avery Williamson comes straight through unblocked the middle of the line, gets a sack on Rivers, and I'm like, yeah, good old Phillip. This is midnight. The Cinderella story is over for this guy. This is the cold weather. The tackles, maybe, with both starting tackles out, maybe they're starting to get worn down. Maybe the Steelers are going to be able to do something here. 2nd and 18. Can't get anything there. 3rd and 18. A little pass, short right to Trey Burton. Cam Sutton's in on that. And the Steelers defense still holds, and they were getting themselves some nice plays here, Brian, even though they've given up some of the touchdowns. This second half, there were, let's see, 3 drives, 3 and outs, and then there was another one that was a 5-play drive for only 20 yards before you get to the final drive that's here. The Steelers, are they going to be able to replicate anything? We saw one good drive here. We saw one big deep shot. So what's going to happen now? Incomplete pass to Juju, incomplete pass to Deontay Johnson. However, pass interference. Okay, bailed out.
Thank you.
We've seen this before.
Yeah.
We've seen this before. Bailed out. Does it still mean that they're any good, or they're going to win this game, or are they, they're going to crap the bed here? He finds James Washington for 13. All of a sudden, these plays are going for a number of yards. James Conner, 10 yards. Nice little dump off right there. I probably jumped out of my chair as excited to see that play happen right there as I had done on the big 39-yarder to Deontay Johnson, because I said, finally, you're looking at the guy who's wide open on the field. Nobody's respecting this. Just start dumping it off to him. He can just start scampering up the field. This is how Le'Veon Bell got all that money from the Jets. This is bread and butter, and there's no reason this can't be done the same with the offense. So
it's very difficult to do when there's 7 guys up there.
Yeah, and getting
now
a little more vertical.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Ben took another shot for Deontay Johnson and another pass interference call. They get down to the 5-yard line. He finds Eric Ebron, who stretches his big frame over the goal line. Thank you, sir. And that was the one thing. I know Eric Ebron's a tight end, and I don't know his physicality level. It seems like sometimes he's a little, I don't know if he's lax, if it's just like the way his makeup of his body is, and he just doesn't look as physical as somebody like Vance McDonald or even Juju, just because he's lanky, And I totally get that, because that's the same category I fall into as well. But now you're feeling even better, right? It's 24-21, and there's only a few seconds burn off here into the fourth quarter. They just got to get the ball back.
Yeah.
The Colts, they get a first down, but they don't do a whole lot else here. And then on 3rd and 5, your favorite guy.
Cam, the OG, G-A-M, the OG grown-ass man, pursues, diligence, persistence, sack. Cam Hayward is a grown-ass man. I felt so good saying that. I felt so good.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I know. Mark Madden was having fun because guess who went on TikTok with the AFC North champions? And it said, "1 not done," however, on their shirts in the locker room. So they got a little celebration in, and they put it in on the TikTok, and now Mark Madden, his brains may have exploded all over whatever device screen that he was watching from.
We can only hope. There's all kind of people getting on Mark Madden's case and talking about, I don't know what the hell happened. Something about, it's so tough being a local sports personality and some other nonsense. And people were saying, Mark Madden's at the top of his game and he's the best that there ever was. And other people are going, he's a clown. I'm firmly in the clown
seconded.
Area. I think
all
he's
in favor.
Yeah, it's a complete clown.
Yeah, this defense, man. Cam comes in on 3rd and 5. They're forced to punt from the middle of from the logo. They're on the 50 at this point, 3rd and 5. So Steelers get the ball at the 16. And you get a nice little chunk from Deontay. Now all of a sudden, James Conner runs up the middle. On one of these plays was a run up the middle. It's coming right here. 10 yards to Eric Ebron. 7 yards to James Washington. 2nd and 3 from the 44 in the pistol. I like this. I think this is, if you're going to talk about ways to fix the offense or ways to run the ball, Brian, you've got your running back. You're not handing him off flat on his heels out of the shotgun. You got Ben in the pistol, turns around. You got Connor already getting a 1-2 yard run out the gate there and heading right towards the line for a push. And, man, did he go right up through where there was a hole. I like more of this. And there was a play that was very similar here that I like, too, that I will see in a little bit, I believe. But if you
go ahead. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead.
No, that's all good. I'm just saying, I think this is one of those plays where I was like, ooh, now creativity, something a little different that I wasn't predicting. I'm predicting, maybe a handoff, maybe a run, but probably not. It's just going to be a quicker pass. Ben's just going to be closer to the line of scrimmage, and the ball is going to get tapped in the air.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give Tony Romo credit for this call. Because he's absolutely right. Ben is watching where the safety is. If the safety goes off to the one side to cover, he's going to give Connor the ball because there's not going to be anybody in the middle of the field. And later on, same exact look, the safety comes into the middle because he got burnt by Connor's run, and so he throws the ball.
Yeah, and they wash everyone to the right side of the line, and he goes left, and Juju basically has a one-on-one with whomever was over there covering.
Exactly. So I'll give him. I give Tony Romo a lot of grief. He's verging on Chris Collinsworth territory for me anymore. He's not there yet. But he was dead on this one.
Well, he is a former Cowboy, so
yeah, I know. So that does tend to, I guess spoil him a little bit for me. I don't, But he got that play right.
But were you concerned Eric Ebron false start? Now it's 2nd and 15.
I was annoyed. I cussed so loudly at that false start because I get it. But I don't. Come on.
And guess what they come back to? James Conner on a little pass, a little dump pass, little screen. So he basically just comes right in the middle, squeaks out. I'm like, yes, finally, somebody listen to the show. We'll fix all the problems. No, we ain't got a clue how to I didn't have a clue how to fix this. After watching the first half, I'm like, this is irredeemable. So, this is all very much surprising to me that it was going.
This all comes from getting the ball down the field. We were worried they couldn't do it because they weren't going to hold up. And I haven't gone back to look, and you can't really tell effectively. A lot of times it seems like the Colts backed off and rushed only 3 guys, which is, look, as bad as they've been, 3 on 5, they're probably going to give Ben time. All right.
Well, 3 or 4 at that point, yes.
But for whatever reason, he had the time he needed. And I said this, actually, I think it was, I don't know, it was one of the beat writers. He said there was zip on that ball, and he's doing something, because he was doing something that we complained about the last show. He was actually, his mechanics improved. He's stepping into the ball. He's driving the ball. It's not these back-footed throws that are not getting there. All of a sudden, Ben was being Ben from when we knew, back in the day. He changed the way he was delivering the ball and was driving through it. That's why those balls were getting there the way that they were, and people were not going, he hasn't got a noodle arm, guys. He doesn't. He just had bad mechanics, and maybe that's addressed because his arm is fine. His arm is fine.
Well, we're about to find that out, but guess where they went again? They just weren't going to cover James Conner, so he went to him again for another 9 yards on a little dump pass. And I'm like, hey, you start to get this stuff spread out and everybody's not breathing down on you on these little slant routes and these little drag routes. Now all of a sudden you got something going on, particularly. Just look at how much ease Deontay Johnson has beaten people this year downfield. And I've always talked about whether or not they get Juju down there. They still haven't gotten Claypool down there, and I'm sure they're watching him, but the Steelers have the weapons. They're capable of doing all this. The other thing was, and I don't know there was a snap count for Ray McLeod, and I'm quite okay with that. So it's like, let's leave the guys out there. Now you've got 5 players with 5 touchdowns, and probably when the stats get updated here, you may even have 5 with over 500 yards receiving. Let me see where they were at coming into this game, because I was arguing with somebody about that. They were talking about how Juju hadn't had a 100-yard game or hasn't had these big seasons, and you had guys coming into the game like Deontay had 753 yards, Claypool had 718, Juju had 670, Ebron had 511. That's 4 different receivers with 500 apiece, and you had 5 that had 5 touchdowns. It wasn't Ebron. He came in with 4, ended up getting his 5th in this, but James Washington also had 5 touchdowns heading into this game, so 5 guys with at least 5. Yeah, 372, and what did he have during this game? I got him here somewhere.
Well, it wasn't 138.
No, 47 though. So he's
gets him over 4.
Yeah. So it's just the ball spreading around because you're not just trying to feed Mr. Big Checks and forcing the ball into getting it turned over with the double triple coverage. So you make him happy. He doesn't have a little toddler tantrum on the sideline. So now the ball gets zipped to Claypool, an attempt at Claypool. Illegal contact, 5 yards because it was before the ball was released. They get a first down off of this. Ben takes a shot immediately, finds Juju, just as I was talking about. Where was Juju at? 25-yard touchdown. It's like, my goodness, holy crap. I am now very excited because they're up. Now, Matthew Wright, don't miss this extra point. He puts it through the uprights, 28-24, because I'm like, hey, this kicker, and I don't know if he was kicking. He may have been kicking in that open end, too. I don't think he was. Maybe he wasn't. I don't recall. It would be kind of foolish for the Steelers to have picked that side with the deferral, losing the coin toss. But anyway, you have the Mike Hilton interception that comes up right here, right after this. So Phillip Rivers goes deep for Michael Pittman, and Hilton is all over it like a fly on stink. And I'm just like, man, Mike Hilton, grown ass man. I want to call him Michael Hilton. Like, he's got like the smooth operator, the moon dancing going. That guy is just unbelievable.
No,
he's
no,
what?
No,
just like
don't
Michael.
Go with that. No, I don't like Michael.
Oh, come on, man.
No, that's some no.
I don't think he likes being called the tiniest grown-ass man either. That's just not fair.
Well, he is the tiniest grown-ass man, but he's still a grown-ass man.
You're going to call him – next thing you're going to do is call him an elf. He's one of those South Pole elves.
He's not an elf. He's not an elf.
You wouldn't know that. You don't watch Will Ferrell.
Yeah. Well, that's the only Will Ferrell movie I actually can tolerate.
Okay. Fair enough.
Because he's very un-Will Ferrell-ish in it.
Well, Bob Newhart plays a heck of a role in that. Everybody does. Yeah, James Caan, all those guys are good. So, Phillip Rivers turning into the pumpkin, as we mentioned. But the Steelers, the offense at least holds the ball, gives the defense a nice breather. So even though they don't score on this drive or add and pad to their lead, Vance McDonald gets added into this mix for 5 yards. 4 consecutive completed passes to Juju Smith-Schuster, 8, 6, 3, and 4. Now all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're not going to cover Juju Smith-Schuster. Ben's locked in on him. For better or worse, being locked in on him. But if you're not going to cover somebody, and then as soon as they cover him, you're going to go somewhere else maybe with the ball. James Conner off to the right end for 2 yards. Now the Colts have to burn some timeouts here because you're getting down to 2:35. Another pass short right to Conner, one of the ones, like I was saying. He was mad that he didn't get all the way there on the first down. And then the same with Deontay. Deontay makes the mistake of going out of bounds. Should have just kept inside it by all means. And this was Jim Miller on the XM radio. I think we discussed this last week. He said that Bill Cowher, they had a thing under 4 minutes. It was stay in bounds at all costs. Stay in bounds at all costs. That's what you call in the huddle. Before you even call a play, it was stay in bounds or under 4 minutes or whatever buzzword to remind you we're in chew clock territory. Let's win this game. Let's finish this out. So Deontay does not do that. 4th and 1. Steelers have it at their 44. You're not going to go for it. You're up 4 points. That would be foolish with the defense playing the way it has, with the way Phillip Rivers has been rattled. Punt the ball away. Colts get the ball on their 15. Frank Reich does an amazing job with play call and clock management here. Brian, they ran 3 plays from 2:18 down to the 2-minute warning. That's just unbelievable to me. And they picked up a first down in the middle of it too.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was you started to get a little bit nervous.
A little bit, yes. I felt they still had to go the whole distance though, which made me feel good.
The fact that they had to score a touchdown also made me. But you're like, there's still too much time.
Well, particularly when you had it in the bag, maybe you thought that Steven Nelson picked off this pass, 4th and 5. The little shoving. Okay. You got the other calls that went your way. Turnabout's fair play. I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
And I have to. My love for Steven Nelson continues to grow because he just tweeted out a tweet about the refs, and one of our faithful followers pinged me on it to make sure that I could throw up the refs stink gift to him. So I did. And let's just say he used a different word, but he said poopy ass refs, but he didn't say poopy.
Oh, yeah. Remove this. Tomlin's going to see this. He's going to get tagged. Yeah, you can't. He was mad about it, though. They were fighting a lot, and you either let it go or you call it a couple times on both sides and get the guys to settle down.
Yeah.
You can't, especially when the game's on the line here. That's what made me more nervous. Phillip Rivers, he's completing these little dink dunks. They're getting out of bounds, and they still have like a minute and a half here. 3rd and 6, a minute 39 left from their own 44. And then they get up to the 35 off a 21-yard gain to T.Y. Hilton once again in that little battle there in the middle of the field. Trey Burton gets run out of bounds. And then Phillip Rivers doesn't complete anything else. Nelson gets a nice little battle there. And I'm always worried about this. These ones, they go to T.Y. Hilton twice, and at the very end, Zach Pascal, and you're thinking to yourself, everybody's like celebrating a little bit. Then they cut to a shot on the bench where I swear Ben wasn't going for his helmet. And I'm like, oh, crap, there's a flag on the field somewhere. That's all I was thinking to myself. I have to have like almost the censorship for TV delay on my celebrations. I can't celebrate in the moment, and then you're kind of deflated by the time you do get to celebrate. But anyways, the Steelers get the ball, and they get to go into the victory formation as the incomplete pass was an incomplete pass with no other things attached, no asterisks, 2 kneel downs, end of game, final score, 28-24. My man right here, even though a lot of people are like, he's done, and they want to run him out of town. You can't pay him what he's owed next year, $41 million or whatever the cap hit ends up being. By the way, folks, there'll be some type of extension or anything, even if he doesn't play beyond the year beyond that. He's going to be on the books for a few years after he's already retired. So, there's just too much money tied up there. See Heath Miller, Troy Polamalu, a few other guys. So Ben Roethlisberger on this game. Let's see here, 34-49, 69.4% completion percentage.
Nice.
The okie dokie there. 342 yards. Only sacked the one time. 3 touchdowns, 109.4 quarterback rating. Tale of two halves. He's not done yet. The old gunslinger doesn't need to hang it up. Colts, once again, the cure for Big Ben, even though it took a little while to warm up. They're going to see things on film. They know what worked. Just hope the other teams aren't picking it up and going to shut it down. But as long as they kind of start to spread this thing around, Brian, I have a little bit more faith. Going to be curious to see what they do going into Cleveland next week. Sorry, something like got in my eye right there. But that wasn't me like reacting. I don't know what they're going to do in Cleveland. Like I'm terrified. But I don't know if they're going to. Do you start sitting players? Kansas City has the only bye wrapped up as the top
Nothing
seed,
else matters at this point. I mean, without having a second bye, a second team being able to get a bye, what are you playing for?
They got the division.
Who cares? The difference between 2 and 3, who cares? And maybe who you're going to play. But crime and Italy, we're not going to. There you go. There's an old man word.
Yeah,
crime and Italy.
I like
crime
that one.
and Italy. You're not going to know who we're going to play until, I don't know, maybe not until Monday.
The following week.
The following week. It's that crazy, right?
Yeah, and I need to see
Colts are still in it. Browns and the Ravens are both in it. The Dolphins are potentially in it, and it's all going to depend on how those games next week play out to decide who you're going to play and who do you. I mean, really, I don't know. Do you want to play any of them, or do you just the hell with it? Who cares? At this point, you're in. Who cares? You play who you play.
Yeah, the Colts just fell down to 8 as we're currently recording this. So the Chiefs 1, the Steelers 2, the Bills 3 will probably bump back up to 2, I'd imagine. So those are your
Patriots.
So 2 and 3 is going to be the Steelers and Bills. The Titans are 10 and 4. So they have no chance even if they equal the Steelers. I don't think there's any scenario.
No, we have the tiebreaker.
Yeah, the Steelers will host at least one game at home. I think that's the only thing. And is there really any home field advantage? If you have to go to Buffalo, there's no fans there either. So what's the real advantage? That's a bus trip. So
if you're in the 4 seed, you're going to end up playing the top wild card, right?
Well, if you're in the 2 seed.
You're in the 2 seed.
You're in the 2 seed. 2 would play 7. So right now they would host the Cleveland Browns for a second consecutive week if Cleveland makes it in. Well, that's the way it's shaken out right now at this moment.
Because Kansas City has a bye, so if you're the top team, you get the worst
The worst team right now that's still in it
is the Browns.
Is the Browns.
What I'm saying is, if you're 4, you get the best wild card team. Whoever was the top,
which would be the Dolphins.
The Ravens, or is the Dolphins right now?
Yeah, Titans and Dolphins. Nope, Titans and Dolphins, and it would be so if it moves around, which we think it might. The Steelers at 3 would host the Ravens at 6.
What I'm saying.
So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you beat the Browns, you knock them out, and then you're potentially facing the Colts. It all depends on how the Ravens end up, and the Ravens got to be happier in a pig and slop that the Browns blew it against the Jets and that the Dolphins did what they did with the Raiders, because then the Browns, if the Dolphins would have lost, the Browns would be at 5. Yeah. So it's just weird how that all shakes out. And, of course, the Ravens have the head-to-head as well with Cleveland. So Cleveland doesn't have it quite all yet. Cleveland has something to play for Week 17, whereas the Steelers don't. And if you're looking at potentially playing the same team 2 weeks in a row, because there's even a possibility here that the Ravens move up over the Dolphins.
Yeah,
that could very well end up happening, and then you're looking at playing the Dolphins or the Browns. There's even the outside possibility still that the Bills maybe don't win out and lose out and don't have the 2 seats. So when you're talking about all these scenarios, more than likely you're looking at the probability of the Steelers having a rematch with an AFC North opponent is very high, particularly for the opening weekend. So do you sit players in this circumstance when you haven't had the proper buys and everything else? Yes. Or do you put them on a pitch count instead?
I'll tell you, I don't let Ben Roethlisberger see the field.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I don't want him to get hurt. He's the most valuable piece.
I don't know that I let T.J. Watt play a lot because he's not playing for anything in specific. He already has a high in sacks. He's already leading the league in sacks. Maybe you give him a couple series if you're trying. Same thing with Cam. Same thing with Tuitt. These guys have been been banged up, have had injuries through the season, have had no bye, no rest. This would be the opportunity to get them a little bit of that heading into the playoffs. And like I said, if you're the Browns, if it's locked up at that point, do they play anybody? I don't know.
They're not locked up though. That's the problem.
What is it? 1 o'clock? Is it a 1 o'clock game?
Well, everything should be 1 o'clocks. Here, everybody should be locked into the 1 o'clock spots because the game's not for the division. The Steelers have locked that up. And you don't want to have a scenario where you see what the Ravens or the Colts or anybody else does, and then all of a sudden, well, of course, the Titans could fall out of this too because they still have the game with the Packers as we're recording as well. So right now, they're just by virtue, they're up there. So these things are going to shift around, but the Browns don't have anything clinched as of yet. They could still fall out of it. They will have something to play for, I believe, in order to make sure they make it in. Right now, the Titans are in by virtue of being the division leaders. They too could fall from grace and somewhere out of this picture, and there's all kinds of different scenarios for all of these different teams. So I guess we'll stop there. We'll stop there because there's too much speculation. There's still some football being played as we're doing this. So, but just know that there's probably going to be a likely rematch, and that the Steelers, I don't think they fall to. They're hosting, and who do you need to have home field advantage over? If you come out of the wild card out of this first weekend, it used to be even if you had a home game, both of the other teams that you're going to end up filtering into for those games were the 2 seeds. Yeah. So now this gets a little more interesting because if they're the 2, they could be hosting for the divisional as well, where that wasn't necessarily the case prior because of the way the bye weeks. Now you have the extra playoff team. So maybe they do want to be in there. I guess it'll depend. I don't know. Do you really have much of home field advantage when there's no fans? It's a crying shame that there weren't fans here for a lot of this run, and even including today's game with the Colts. They'd be screaming their heads off. But, Brian, we're up against it, my friend. I don't want you to have to pick out on any more Fig Newtons there in order to get your nutrition.
I'm good.
We'll be back sometime in the middle of this week. A little disjointed schedule. We got the New Year's stuff going on, and I know I'll have a little bit of celebration here with the family, and as maybe you will. So we'll try to come to you a little bit earlier, and whether that's video, whether that's audio, whether I'm on the road or whatever, we'll figure that out as well going forward. But thanks for joining me again, my friend, and any closing thoughts that you may have going forward into this week or from the game.
I'm just, as I keep saying, I'm much happier now than I was earlier, and it feels very good to be the Kings of the North.
Yes, it does. Once again, rightfully where it belongs.
Yes, absolutely.
Brian messages me. We have to go now. He has too much energy bottled up.
Yeah,
he's slowing down.
Exactly. Can't be waiting. No, I'll get upstairs and I'll be all fired up again. I got my hat. I got my stuff, but I'm still all fired up. I got this to look forward to too.
Oh, Clemson again, my friend. That's not a conversation.
I'm telling you
for
right
here,
now. That's a Zach Meckler. Professor, you go down, man. You go down hard.
He's the Clemson. He's the darn Clemson fan. He's had the better of us for a while here.
Puke uniform crap.
Well, that same type of wording could apply for the Browns too.
True. There you go.
Yeah. So until next time, folks. That's Brian. My name's Joe. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And also take care of yourselves out there. Be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.